here we go with another country for today. Sorry it's a little late, but here we go. And today we're on Greece. So yeah, starting off with the history as usual, with the rich history of Greece. So here we go. From about 7000 BC, Stone Age farmers lived in Greece. And in 3000 BC, bronze was introduced. And then in about around 2500 BC, sophisticated society grew up on the island of Crete, as it was known, which was known as the Minoan civilization. And about 50 years after that, in 1950 BC, inhabitants invented a form of writing using hieroglyphs, and was called Linear A. So yeah, the Minoans were a Bronze Age civilization, as they made tools and weapons from bronze, and their height was from about 1700 BC to 1500. But Minoan culture declined after 1450 BC. But not sure why, but may have been conquered by the Mycenaeans from what is now mainland Greece. Most Minoans lived in small villages and made a living from farming. As a group grew wheat, barley, grapes and olives, and raised goats, cattle, sheep and pigs, and Minoan farmers had to give part of their crops as a rule as a tax. And the Minoans were also a trading people, as they traded with Sicily, Cyprus, Egypt and other parts of the Middle East. As the Minoans exported wine, olive oil, timber and pottery, as Minoan potters made a very thin pottery called Camaras ware, and they also exported jewellery and weaponry. And merchants imported lead, copper and obsidian and ivory. And each Minoan palace was surrounded by a large unfortified town. The fact that the town was unfortified showed that life on ancient Crete was relatively peaceful. Perhaps the fact that the Minoans had a large and powerful fleet made them feel secure and all that. And then, about 1600 BC, the civilization spread to the Greek mainland. And the early Greek civilization is called the Mycenaeans. And after the city of Mycenae, which was founded by a great German archaeologist, it was called Schirman. And the Mycenaeans lived in city-states, and their palaces were fortified, showing that their life was perhaps less peaceful than what was on Crete. But the Mycenaeans were also great traders and craftsmen, worked on gold and silver. But in 1200 BC, the Mycenaean civilization went into a decline, and by 1100 BC, Greece had entered a dark age, and at this time the people called the Dorians conquered Mycenaean cities. However, the Dorians also introduced iron into Greece, and by 800 BC a new civilization arose from Greece based on city-states such as Athens and Sparta. And by 490 BC, Darius, who was a Persian king, led an army into Greece. However, the Persians were crushed at the Battle of Marathon. And 10 years later, in 480, the next Persian king, Xerxes, invaded Greece, but again he was completely defeated at the naval battle of Salamis. And the next year the Greeks triumphed at the Battle of Plataea. And in 477 BC, Athens formed an alliance with Greek city-states called the Delian League. However, Athens came into conflict with Sparta, and they fought a long war from 431 to 404 BC, and was called the Peloponnesian War, and ended with Spartan victory. However, Sparta later fell out with the city of Thebes, and the Thebans won a great victory in Electra in 371, and for a short time Thebes became a leading Greek city. And Sparta and Athens joined forces against Thebes in 362, and a great Theban general, Epaminondas, was killed and Theban power waned from there. After a while, meanwhile in the north, the power of Macedon was growing. And in 338 BC, Philip of Macedon defeated an alliance of Greeks in battle, and he was later assassinated in 336 BC, but his son eventually took a firm control over Greece. So yeah, now find more out about that in my Macedonian video I did the other day. And in the 4th and 5th century BC, Greek excelled in architecture, sculpture and literature, and they also produced some of the world's greatest philosophers and mathematicians, and also gave us the first lot of Olympic Games. And when Alexander the Great led his army into what is now Turkey in 334 BC, he crushed the Persians. At the Battle of Issus in 333 BC, and conquered a vast empire stretching from Egypt to India. However, Alexander died in 323 BC, and his empire broke up, and Greek culture was spread through the Middle East. And after the death of Alexander, the Greek cities became independent again. However, it did not last long, as Rome was rising by this time. In 168 BC, the Romans defeated Macedon, and in 86 BC they captured Athens, and Greece became a province of the Roman Empire known as Achaea. However, under Roman rule, Greece prospered, and during this era Greece was converted into Christianity as St. Paul travelled to Greece in the 1st century AD, and afterwards Christianity gradually spread throughout the region. And by 395 AD, the Roman Empire split, and the Eastern Roman Empire became the Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire, with the capital in Constantinople. And the Emperor Justinian reigned from 527 to 565 AD. During his time, Roman influence weakened in the Byzantine Empire, and Greek ones grew stronger, as Justinian tried to keep Latin as the official language of the empire, so he became known as the last of the Romans. And Justinian was also famous for building, and his greatest building was the Church of St. Sophia in Constantinople. It recently turned into a Hagia Sophia, which was built between 532 and 538 AD. As well as architecture, the other arts also flourished in the Byzantine Empire, as the Byzantines made mosaics, frescoes, jewellery and illuminated manuscripts. And during the reign of Heraclius from 610 to 641, ties with Western Europe weakened, and Greek was made the official language of the Byzantine Empire. And in 1054, the Eastern Orthodox Church formally separated from the Western Church. And in 1204, the Crusaders captured Constantinople. However, some parts of the Byzantine Empire remained independent and were ruled by emperors in exile, and gradually the emperors in exile won territory back, and in 1261 recaptured Constantinople. Nonetheless, the Byzantine Empire would never really fully recover, and from the end of the 13th century, Byzantium was threatened by new people from Central Asia, which came from the Ottoman Turks, and it gradually gained strength, and the Byzantium dwindled. And at the time, Emperor Emmanuel II, from 1391 to 1425, the Byzantine Empire consisted of Constantinople and small parts of Greece and Asia Minor, now Turkey. But however, Constantinople finally fell in 1453 and the Byzantine Empire came to an end. And from the 15th century to the early 19th century, Greece was ruled by the Ottoman Turks, and the Turkish Empire was at its peak during the 16th century. However, from the late 17th century, it slowly declined, and in the late 18th century, nationalism grew in Greece. And in the early 14th century, there were many Greek expatriates living in Odessa on the Black Sea coast. And in 1814, some of them formed the Filiki Eteri, known as a friendly society, to fight for Greek independence, and the society soon became widespread in Greece, and on March 25th, 1821, the rebellion broke out against the Turks, and eventually European powers intervened, and the French, British and Russian fleets destroyed the Turkish fleet in the Battle of Navarino in 1827, and Greece finally became independent 2 years later in 1829. And from there, Britain, France and Russia decided that Greece should be a monarchy, so they sent Prince Otto of Bavaria and became King of Greece in 1833. And in 1836 he was replaced by a Dane, who became King George I. And in 1833 the Corinth Canal opened between the Ionian and Aegean Sea. And in 1896 the Olympic Games were received. Modern Olympic Games were first received in Athens now. Meanwhile, at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, Greeks migrated to the US. See, like in new life, as America's kind of seen like a great country back then, full of like new opportunities and all that, and kind of still is in a way. But in 1912, Greece, with its allies Bulgaria and Serbia, fought the First Balkan War against Turkey, and Greece and Serbia then argued with Bulgaria and fought the Second Bulgarian War against them in 1913. And afterwards, Greece was left with a territory that was larger than what it was. And when the First World War began in 1914, Greece first remained neutral, but in 1917 she joined the Allies, and in 1922 the Greeks captured Samarina, now Izmir, in Turkey, and Greece and Turkey made a peace treaty of Lausanne in 1923. However, afterwards there was a huge exchange of population, with hundreds of thousands of Turks leaving Greece, and over 1 million Greeks leaving Turkey. And in 1924 Greece became a republic, but the king was restored in 1935. And in 1926, the Prime Minister Metaxas became a virtual dictator of Greece. And in October 20th of October 1940, Italians invaded Greece, but they were quickly driven back into Albania, and Metaxas refused to allow British troops to land in Greece for fearing of provoking Germany, but he died in January 1941. And his successor reversed the decision, and the Germans invaded Greece on the 6th of April 1941. And he captured Athens on the 23rd of April, and Greece was then occupied by Germans and Italians, and the Greeks kind of suffered badly during the Second World War. As many people died from starvation. However, the communists and non-communists formed resistance groups, and the Germans withdrew from Greece in October 1944. And on the 18th of October, the Greek government in exile returned to Athens. But at the end of the 1944 began with fighting between communists and non-communists in Greece, and the US sent aid to non-communists, and by 1949 they were in control of Greece. and elections were held in 1952 during the 1950s and 60s. Greece grew to be more prosperous, but in 1969 the army staged a coup and introduced a military dictatorship, and they held power until 1974 when democracy was restored. In 1981 Greece joined the EU, and 2001 Greece joined the Euro, and when the 2009 economic crisis came, it was severe on Greece and with a uncertain future. And in 2012 unemployment rose to 25%, and today unemployment remains high and the economy is stagnant, and today's population of Greece is about 10.7 million people. So yeah, moving on to the Greek language. Yeah, as Greek is the official language of Greece and used by the majority of the other country's population, and English is most widely spoken foreign language. As Greek is the official and primary language of Greece and is spoken by the majority of the population, but English is the dominant foreign language that is spoken in business world of Greece and taught in schools. Can I just say we've got happy neighbours? Greek is also the de facto provincial language in Albania, and today it exists as modern Greek with many dialects in different regions of the country. I really should not be laughing at it. Greek is also one of the oldest Indo-European languages in the world, having survived more than 32 centuries, so more than 3,400 years, and the official language alongside Turkish and Cyprus, and more than 15 to 25 million people speak Greek, and in Greece 99.5% of the population converse in Greek. So just a small minority that don't speak it. And standard modern Greek is officially used as standard language form in the country. And modern Greek stems from medieval Greek and has many regional dialects. And say the language exists as diglossia form with its native system, and archaizing written form, the language has a 5-vowel system and combined 24 letters of the alphabet. The syntax and morphology and phonology of the Greek language shows that it has conserved its integrity, and the innovative tendencies developed across the entire attestation of tongue from the ancient form of the modern linguical style. And different non-dialects of the Hellenic languages exist as well. And modern Greek dialects, except for the Canonian language, hail from the common Supra region, Attic Greek and spoken in late antiquity. And say the Saconian dialect is spoken by 1,200 people in the Saconian regions of Peloponnese, where it is spirits of North Southern and Propontis dialects, and as the Saconian dialect descends from the ancient Doric dialect, as the Cappadocian Greek has very few speakers and is now facing extinction. Most of the Cappadocians shifted to standard modern Greek, and the Cretan Greek is the dialect of Crete with a population of about 500,000 people speaking the language. However, they rarely use it in written form, although it differs less from the standard Greek. Outside Crete, Athens and Ottoman era Cretan Greek Muslims also speak the dialect. The Mani dialects belongs to the era of Mani, and the Pontic Greek is spoken in Pontus and Caucasus, Greece. Greeks in South Caucasus region and has some 500,000 people speaking the language. The Greek is also called the Jewish dialect spoken by the Roman Arts and is almost entirely extinct today, and although some early Roman Arts in Ionia can still tell the dialect, is less than 50 people speak the dialects, given now 35 of them live in Israel. And according to the 2001 census, there's approximately 443,550 Albanian immigrants in Greece, making the Albanian language the largest minority spoken tongue in Greece, besides more than 1 million Greeks having Albanian descendants either by marriage, ancestry or immigration. Turkish is a widely spoken minority language and has speaker populations of about 128,380 in Western Thrace and make up the Greece Muslim minority. And about 35 Armenians live in Greece today, with some 20,000 speaking the language. And about 41,017 speak the Macedonian Slavic dialects, and although these speakers identify themselves as either Greek, Macedonian or Bulgarian, some of the speakers identify as Dopai, with a Dopian dialect. The original local Greek, about 40,000 people in Greek speak the Eastern Romance language called Romani, related to Romania. And other Romance language in Romanian, spoken by almost 2,500 speakers in Greece, and Macedonian native speakers of Bulgaria around 30,000, living in Western Thrace. And Ladino are also called the Judeo-Spanish language, used by about 2,000 to 8,000 speakers in Greece. Another minorities languages are Romani, spoken by about 1,160,000 speakers in Greece today, which accounts for 90% of the Roma language. And English is a primary foreign language spoken by more than 48% of the population as the international language of commerce. As English is included in the educational system of the country and taught as foreign language from third grade onwards in Greek schools, as German follows as a second choice for most school curriculums, with about 9% able to converse in the language. And other foreign languages include French with 8.5% and Italian with 8%. So yeah, enough of the language, and moving on to legends, which make up a lot of the script today. That belong to the ancient Greeks, and the story concerns the gods and heroes, and the nature of the world, as well as the cultural significance of their rituals and practices. And mythology was a religion of the ancient Greeks, which were often broken up into multiple cults that worshipped individual gods. And it's where today the mythology of the Greeks can still holds a third place in academic curricula and popular culture. And there's many of if you haven't paid attention to films recently, Greek myths and legends make some of the good movies over the years, books and works of art. And this is probably because of a timeless element to them, inherited by human nature, as various schools of psychology has demonstrated time and time again. Anyway, so I'll be going with 10 different legends. So yeah, the first is the legend of Prometheus. And it's in the earliest days of human history, probably Paleolithic, something like that, fire was considered a gift of life, and in every part of the world historians can trace myths and legends about some god or hero who offered fire to humans or overcoming various obstacles, and was thus honoured as a supreme benefactor. As Prometheus was a titan, a cult hero, and a trickster who defied the gods by stealing fire and giving it to the humans, and an act enabled progress in civilization, as Prometheus is hailed for his intellect and being a champion of mankind, and the sin of Prometheus consisted of the fact that he helped humans despite the order of mighty Zeus, who decreed that fire should remain to the gods, but not to be given to men. But Prometheus rooted for the humans, and to steal fire, Prometheus broke into Hephaestus' workshop, where godly kilns burned and exquisite artifacts were being created for the heavenly dwellers, and some say he stole burning charcoal, while others say he stole sparks from the chariot of Helios, known as the sun. And either way, he carried the fire in the stalk of a fennel plant and made the life-saving gift of fire to us humans. And in ancient Greek, the name Prometheus means he who has foresight. And Prometheus knew that he would be punished for his theft, but nevertheless he went about his self-assigned tasks while protecting and helping mankind. And ages later, Heracles, son of Zeus, obtained permission from his father to finally see Prometheus, the Titan, finally free Prometheus from his chains. And as Greek mythology tells us, that besides stealing fire, Prometheus showed his magnanimous mercy over humans on many occasions, and he was appointed by Zeus to shape humans out of clay, and his brother Epimetheus, he was hindsight, shaped the animals and established animal sacrifice, and was practiced henceforth in ancient Greek religion. And as Zeus left to Prometheus the decision of which portions of the animal sacrifice would be offered to the gods, and the leftovers would be made to humans. And as Prometheus deviously covered bones and other animal parts of lesser value with shining grease, and disguised all the nutritious parts of the animal by wrapping them in a less appetizing tripe. And then he invited Zeus to choose the portion he owed to the god, and Zeus fell for the trick. Essentially, when Zeus was planning to deluge with the intention of eliminating mankind, Prometheus warned his son Deucalion of the imminent catastrophe and instructed him to build an ark in order to save himself and his wife Preia. And he warned his brother Epimetheus not to receive Pandora and her box, which was actually a jar. And Epimetheus thought he was cleverer and received a girl, and the male authors of Greek antiquity never forgave him for this mistake. And then the second of the 10 is the Odyssey. As a wanderer of the seas was bound to make an appearance in Greek mythology, and Greece has an extremely long shoreline with like the mainland Greece and the many islands, and relative to its overall landmass, and not to mention hundreds of islands. And Odysseus was a mariner par excellence. He was a major role in Greek literature and has inspired many artists from antiquity and modern times. And his tale, the Odyssey, who was told was by Homer, the great ancient poet and singer. And Odysseus was credited with sacking along with other long-haired Achaeans, the ancient name for Greeks, the castle of Troy near the entrance of the Black Sea. After leaving Troy, it took Odysseus 10 years to reach his home, island of Ithaca. He faced many dangers, fought against temptations, gods, monsters, waves, powerful witches, and of course men. And throughout all this, he stood firm of his resolution to live long enough to see smoke rising from the heaths of his homeland. then third is the aforementioned Pandora's box, as Pandora was all gifted by the gods in order to tempt man and make him receive her, for sealing his own damnation. And the similarities with Eve can be seen evident. She was not genuinely evil, but she was curious and defiant. Oh, that's how official stories told by Hesiod in his Theogony goes. It's like it wasn't actually a box, it was actually a jar. Or the ancient Greeks would have referred to it as an urn. Pandora was forged by the divine blacksmith Hephaestus, and all the gods and goddesses showered her with gifts, as she was the most desirable female. And then Zeus sent her as a wife to Epiphanes in hindsight, giving her a silver jar as a dowry for the marriage. Pandora was instructed not to open the vessel under any circumstances, but Pandora could not refrain from lifting the lid, and she released from her jar all the evils that would torture mankind for eternity. Knowing that poor Pandora's curiosity would prevail, this was Zeus's method of taking revenge of humans for the gift of fire that a brother-in-law, Prometheus, gave to mankind. And scholars claim that the story originated from an earlier mythological substratum, in which Pandora was a great goddess and provider of gifts that made life and curious culture possible. According to these scholars, the entities released from her urn were not evil, but cultural gifts. As the tale of Hesiod may have been later intention promoting patriarchal ethics that give women an inferior and dependent position. In Hesiod's story, Pandora brought with her Pythos, or big clay jar, and when the god Hermes escorted her to Epiphanes, the symbolic language of the earthen jar may represented the female uterus. And at this point, the interpretations on Pandora was a symbol of fecundity, prosperity in life, and according to this interpretation, we could consider the name of the all-gifted refers to the gifts she brings men, and not the gifts that the gods bestowed upon her. So yeah. And the fourth is Hercules. I'm just going to say Hercules. Many are familiar with similar sounding Hercules, but we're not concerned with the man now, for he belongs to the Romans, who planted him his name from the Greek Heracles. I don't know, Heracles literally means god of glory of Hera. As the myth goes, that Hera was a godly wife of Zeus and was extremely jealous of her consort's affair with Queen Alcmene of Thebes and mother of Hercules, and avenged herself by making life miserable for Alcmene's demigod son. And there's many myths about Heracles, and to begin with, he was conceived by Alcmene, queen of Thebes, while her husband was away on expedition, and did not make her exactly an adulteress, though, because Zeus was disguised as King Amphitryon, and impregnated her and made her pregnant-in-law, and Amphitryon arrived later that night and fecundated his wife with Heracles' twin brother Iphicles, and so the boys were as different as day and night, as Zeus' son was strong and stout and fearless, while his all-human brother, seed of the cheated husband, was small and whiny, and one night, wanting to get rid of the boy, Hera sent 2 large snakes to drown him. Iphicles woke up and started to cry, and Heracles started to strangle the snakes with his bare hands. As Heracles married Princess Megara of Thebes and had 2 sons with her, but he would not find any rest, and Hera still carried vengeance. The goddess inflicted him with a fit of madness, causing him to kill his own children. And when it came to overcoming grief, he took to the oracle of Delphi to have Pythia instruct him on how to expiate himself. The sentence was that he have to serve Aeneas, king of Tiryns and Mycenae, for a period of 12 years. As part of the hero's servitude, King Aeneas compelled him to perform 12 feats, so difficult they seemed impossible. And then the 12 labors consisted of tasks like killing ferocious beasts and monsters such as the Nemean lion and the Leonine hydra, and the Stymphalian birds, and capturing magnificent animals such as the hind of Serenia, sacred to the goddess Artemis, the Admantian bull, the Cretan bull Dimas mares, as mares were the gift from the god of war Ares, and they ate human flesh. And the castle of Geryon, a huge monster with 3 heads and twice as many hands. And clenching the dung created over several years by innumerable cattle owned by King Augustus of Argentine stables, and bringing back the girdle of Hippolyte, queen of the Amazons, all the apples of the Hesperides, located far away in the east, and fetching Cerberus for Hades, a ferocious 3-headed dog who guarded the underworld. Then there's Jason and the Argonauts, as the fifth story involves a prince claiming his throne, a golden fleece, a witch, and 50 Greek heroes. And a talking ship. It was a complex and epic story sets out Jason with his crew to reclaim the throne and kingdom of Iolcus from his uncle. And by the time they embarked, Jason and his crew were simply eager to see the world around them and indulge in the fun of adventure. And what they didn't realise was that their journey would present many challenges and would change their lives forever, but some wouldn't return at all. And throughout the journey, the Greek hero meets many notable figures from Greek mythology, such as Amycus, Pinus, Pegades, and Apsyrtus. And in the end, the story of glory and victory ends in tragedy, as Jason is swayed by the princess of Corinth to leave his wife Medea and the 3 children they had together. As Medea was unable to bear his betrayal, kills the princess of Corinth and the 3 kids she had with Jason, and flees to Athens, and Jason is left without anything. And seeing his ship Argo washed up on the shores many years later, he sits beneath it and contemplates the sadness of his life and the glory he once knew, and begging Zeus to show him mercy, a lashing snapped and a beam fell on Jason, ending his life and casting him into Greek mythology as a seafaring legend. And back in 2008, a replica of Jason's ship actually set sail for the purpose of retracing a portion of a legendary journey, making the whole trip would be possible, if not for the refusal of the Turkish state to let this ship pass through the Bosporus Strait. Then there's the 6th is the Trojan War, as mythology carries seeds of truth, and sometimes even more, despite what people of medieval and later times believed. Troy, Ilion, did exist on the shores of Asia Minor, and the Trojan War did take place in the early 18th century, 12th century BC, not 18th, 12th century BC. It's also important to understand that the ancient myths and stories are passed down orally from hundreds of years before storytellers wrote them down on any parchments. So they would contain any information that was really obvious and often coded, hidden, or half forgotten. And the stories draw from various historical, genealogical, literary, and ethical sources, and trying to make an outright distinction between those elements might not always be easy, but may even prove misleading. And archaeology suggests that peaceful commercial exchanges interspersed with intervals of war were quite common in North Aegean during the Bronze Age. And we must bear in mind that the area had developed a thriving civilization based on metallurgy, and it was a route towards the Black Sea, which was rich in metals and other goods. And this was, of course, during the early Bronze Age, around 3000 BCE. Later on, the advent of both of the Mycenaean kingdoms on mainland Greece gave rise to rivalries and attempted, as is always the case, to gain dominion over the financial networks of the area. As Troy was built near the coast of Hellespont, at the entrance of the Black Sea, and newer evidence indicates that its inhabitants are the people, inhabited by people of Hittite descendants, and at the time of the Trojan War. Homer's Troy was a thriving city that was gaining power and wealth in the North Aegean area, thus being an inevitable prize for a strong army. Much of it is said to be about the abduction of Helen, Queen of Sparta, or Helen of Troy, as she was later called. And besides providing a very good pretext for a declaration of war, the many story may contain some elements of truth, as commercial ethics of the time deemed piracy was quite legitimate means of making a fortune for yourself, and the stealing of women and treasures was very common on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Yeah. And then 7. Trying to make tarts. Then the 7 is Theseus and the Minotaur, as Theseus was a hero of the House of Athens. Long before Pericles immortalized the city's power by erecting classical Parthenon and other great monuments on Acropolis. In fact, Theseus preceded by the Trojan War by a generation. His two sons, Acamas and Demethon, fought under the command of King Agamemnon, and Theseus is said to have faltered on by both King Aegeus and Poseidon. And it does not seem strange, as it's not as strange as it seems, as the name Aegean or Aegis in Greek spelling is closely associated with Poseidon's territory. And Theseus is largely known for, say, his slaying of the Minotaur, who is a half-man, half-woman monster that dwelt inside a labyrinth. Minos, king of Crete, ruled in the whole of the eastern Mediterranean until the rise of the Mycenaean cities in mainland Greece, and imposed on King Aegeus a cruel homage. Every 7 to 9 years, Athenians had to send 14 youths to be eaten by the Minotaur, and the third time it was about to happen, Theseus convinced his father to send him along as one of them. The Athenian prince killed the bull being the symbol of Crete, and Athens was sent on her way to become a new Thalassocrates Greek state. And while Theseus was in Crete slaying the Minotaur and bringing Cretan Grecian princess home. His father would go to Cape Neon to stare at the sea and wait for his son to come home, and if they saw his ship approaching land, the sails were black, they would serve as an indication that his son died. If his son survived the encounter with the Minotaur, he was to raise white sails, indicating that he was safe and sound, and distracted by happiness as he brought his princess bride back to Iran. Theus forgot to change his sails, and when Aegeus saw the black sails, he flung himself into the sea, killing himself. And today the waters are still called the Aegean or the Aegean Sea. As in Greek mythology, is a corpus of stories throughout a long period of time, often in various places of neighbouring through different tribes. Lack of consistency is apparent in many cases, as there may be 2 or 3 or more versions of the same thing, a couple of versions of the same thing. And the parentage of Greek heroes is often problematic, and different areas of royal houses may contest their affection to a famous hero, or the myth may have become so far popular and retold so many times that the version one receives mostly depends on the storyteller's imagination, and sometimes, however, differences in a myth are illusory. And this may be the case in Theus' story, as the traditions say that either Poseidon or the imperial god of the sea, earthquakes and horses, or Aegeus, the king of Athens, so the hero's father. The fact is there may be no difference whatsoever between the 2 men. As etymology, or the story of the origin of the word, may explain the theory. And in Greek, Aegeus is written like Aegeus, Aegeus, the root Aeg, still being used today, which is found in writing words like Aegios, which translates as seashore, Aegis, which translates to Aegis, Aega, which translates into goat, and Kategida, which translates into storm. And the root Aeg comes from the ancient Greek word of aso, which is used for a rapid dashing motion, means to shoot darts glance in the same manner as light or water. Some examples of the word using Aeg roots include rushing into the waves of the Aegialos, like the furious motion of water, and the winds of Kateaida, and like when Zeus shakes his terrible Aegis in turmoil and uproar break upon the earth, like the brisk gambol of the Aegeus, and their swift disappearances among the rocks and cliffs of Greek islands. And so the etymology suggests that Aegeus of the sea somehow connected me and Poseidon, and Aegeus may in fact be the same historical figure. And then there's 8, which is Demeter and Persephone, and as the myth of Persephone was kind of like a story of death and rebirth, and loss and recovery, of what we hold dear and all. As one day she was out in the plains of Sicily gathering flowers with her friends, her female companions, as she was abducted by Hades, no god of the underworld, and forcibly married to him, and being the personification of vegetation, her abduction symbolises the cycles of agriculture as a crop sprouts of the spring and disappears underground during the winter, and Persephone was allowed to leave the underworld once a year, and when she came up it was kind of like harvest season, like spring, summer, and then when she was below it was like autumn, winter kind of thing. And there's 9, which is Orpheus and Eurydice, as Orpheus was a legendary musician and poet and prophet of ancient Greece. According to ancient Greek poet Simonides, It does. Orifice music and singing could drown birds, fish, wild beasts. It could even coax the trees and rocks into the dance and divert the course of rivers. And while his wife, Eurydice, got bitten by a snake and died, as Orifice determined to claim his fair lady back from the underworld, they made it to the throne of Hades, and the power of his music persuaded the king of the dead to release Eurydice, and on the only condition that Orpheus should not return to look back until they both set on foot on the sun and out of a dark kingdom. But Orpheus was hastily turned his head, causing Eurydice to sink once again into the darkness, and this time his wife was permanently installed in the underworld. So yeah. And Orpheus was inconsolable, and he roamed the wilderness singing sorrowful songs about his lost love. On one of the depressing excursions of the songs, he was perceived by a raging madness and was shred to pieces. His head and eye were thrown into the river of Hebrus, and it was said that his head continued to sing and his lyre continued to play even after he'd been dismembered. And then there's the last one that I'll be talking about now, because I don't want to make it too long, because I've already done like a long video today, like this week already, like Macedonia I think. So yeah, the story of Oedipus is placed in one of which is mythical tradition dated from the prehistoric times, the Theban cycle, as Thebes was founded by Cadmus, a Phoenician prince and the brother of Europa, and was great-grandson of the Egyptian king Epapus. And around the 14th century BC, one should remember that the prominent city of ancient Egypt, which was the capital of state under the 18th dynasty from 1550 to 1290 BC, well, same name and does today. We should know that the Theban cycle is separate from the southern Greece's Mycenaean legends, which include Phaeacius and Pelops, for Thebes was the time powerful enough to withstand pressure from these kingdoms. As the first king Laios, Oedipus, his father and descendant of Cadmus, betrayed his host and protected his trust, wherein usurpation took place in Thebes, and last found refuge in Pelpa, the king of Pisa, and in Peloponnese him back for all his favour. He thought it fit to kidnap and rape his son and carry him off to Thebes, and last deserved punishment and was even warned about it when his wife Jocasta bore him a son. The oracle of Delphi pronounced that the child would kill his father and marry his mother, and Laios then committed a second hubris, thinking he could outsmart the gods, and he gave his baby to a shepherd on Mount Cithaeron, and was abandoned him there. And the shepherd took pity on the little boy and cared for him until he was eventually adopted by King Polybos of Corinth. And the string of hubris did not finish there. In his own turn, Oedipus triggered the same rumours, visited the oracle only to be told that he was kill his father and marry his mother. Believing that Polybos and his wife, Merope, to be his blood parents, Oedipus did not return to Corinth. On his way to a nearby city of Thebes, Oedipus now met with an elder, who contested his right to pass, and after a short scuffle, he killed him. And the elder was Laios and his father, but this would not be revealed to Oedipus until he married, until many years later. And after killing his father, unknowingly he solved the riddle of the Sphinx, and like the oracle predicted, he married his mother. So yeah. It's like a video like this does not do like ancient Greek much justice. Says it's like rich and like expansive and all that. So yeah, if you want to find out any more about Greece, I will link everything below, and please Google it or use whatever search engine you use to find out more. So yeah, I'll see you all later, on tomorrow and all that. So yeah, bye for now.